You have me at the beginning of this as the leader is on her en route via the doctors, so hopefully she's all okay. But I will begin. Have we any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We've got apologies for this afternoon's meeting from Councillors Edmonds and West, and also Councillor Bridgewater, who members will note is on the Teams link remotely. Thank you, Chair.
Welcome, Adam. Any declarations of interest? No. Any items requiring urgent attention?
Not that I'm aware of, Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to the confirmation of the minutes of the meeting we held on the 8th of April 2025 and the special meeting held on the 20th of May 2025. If I could, I'll propose, are we happy, anybody to second? Thank you, Councillor Moody. The vote on those been accurate. Indeed,
that's approved, both sets of minutes. Thank you,
perfect,
Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to today's meeting. I didn't say welcome to all the people in the public and the members of the public in here too. I think, oh yes, the public questions. Were there any public questions? Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. We have no public questions received for this meeting.
Are we okay to move on now? Oh, she's here. Well, you can introduce me because I won't introduce myself then. Couldn't you? Let me get into that. Just confirm.
Okay. Sorry, everybody. Right. If I could introduce Mark. Oh, we've got the forward plan first.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said introduce you.
Sorry, it was my bad.
Right, if we could move to page 9, and we have the forward plan. We have quite a few bits on there on page 10 that we're going to discuss and sort out today. Going forward on page 11, 12, 13 and 14, is there anything on there that members would like to see, or does anything need to come off those lists, officers and members? We all okay with that? That was quick and easy. Right, thank you very much, members. Now I will introduce Councillor Renders as our lead member for housing. And this is the Housing Affordable Scheme for Wanacotts Road in Oakhampton. And we have Jerry Mills with us, who's the head of delivery. Off you go, Councillor Renders.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you're all aware, the council owns a brownfield site adjacent to Wanacotts Road in the town centre of Oakhampton. It was purchased some years ago with the intention of developing it for housing, and historically a number of schemes have been looked at but not progressed. Initially, a larger mixed development of 60 to 70 homes was suggested. However, following pre-planning advice and some consultation with the community about leaving a green space, this number has been reduced drastically. Now, in line with the Council's housing strategy, a plan for West Devon and the housing crisis we previously announced, the paper in front of you requests 3 things. And are they up on there? Sorry. One, that we agree a budget of £100,000 to prepare a pre-planning assessment, pre-planning even, and associated design, surveys and ecology work funded from the Innovation Fund, Invest to Earn, earmark reserve. 2, subject to the satisfactory completion of one above, delegate authority to the Director of Place and Enterprise in consultation with the leader and lead hub committee member for housing to prepare and submit an application for outline planning permission. And 3, note the project risks highlighted in section 2 and appendix A. Now, hopefully the 2 meetings we've already had where Jerry gave us a comprehensive presentation on the site will have answered most, if not all, of your questions, especially the ones that could possibly force us into a part 2. However, he is here with us to answer any further questions, should you have any. Welcome again, Jerry. Thank you.
Any questions, please? Councillor Elliott.
So firstly, thank you very much for the briefings you've already provided and for a very detailed and helpful paper. It's really excellent to see the maps and to understand the sort of scale of housing development that might be possible on this site. I just wanted to clarify on page 22, paragraph 2.11, 2.11 on page 22. So it's a very simple table there that's got the total scheme cost of 7.6 million. And my understanding is that that would be a capital expenditure. And then the finance income made up of the social rental value is down in that table as 5.5 million. And clearly the table is to helpfully indicate that there's a major shortfall there. But I just wonder whether you could clarify that that 5.5 million income is clearly not a capital income. That's going to be a revenue income over a number of years. And I assume that's over 50 years or 100 years, or, you know, the sort of length of durability of the project. But just for clarity, it would be great to have that spelled out. Thank you.
Chair, thank you.
Mills, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. How we model these things is based on what's called the capital value of the rent. We take a yield and we divide it into the amount of rental income in the first calendar year.
Ms Mills, could I ask you to speak more into the microphone,
Yes,
please?
of course. So the capital value of the rent is determined by the yield, or the income, the rental income divided by the yield. And in this instance, whenever we run the numbers, as we refer to, sorry, it's a bit colloquial, what we find is that the rent would not come anywhere close to actually paying off the borrowing that would be required for the capital expenditure. In other words, the income that we would get, the rental income, would not pay back the borrowing. A bit like if your mortgage was too big for your income, if that's not oversimplifying. In this instance, if we actually work out and extrapolate to its fullest extent, the payback period would actually end up being 97 years, but Treasury management precludes us from borrowing over that period of time because of the lifetime of the asset. We're only allowed to borrow over the period that the asset is good for. So in that situation, what we do is we try to make a case, and because this is largely supported living and affordable, we make that case through to Homes England, and the subsidy that we would require, or the support that we would require, roughly works out at the minute, depending on which permutation you take, of about £75,000 per unit. To give you an idea of how that would work out in other units that we've recently had acquired, that support from Homes England ran to the figure of about 105,000 is my recollection. So it's within reach of the amount of subsidies that are typically given. We acknowledge the fact that because of the reduction of rent for affordable and supported living, that's actually quite cost intensive from our point of view, which is why we would seek to the support of an RP who can access that public sector funding and that support. Does that help, Chair?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Thank you very much for the clarification.
Does anyone else have any questions? If you'd like to move to debate, is there going to be any debate? Councillor Jury, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that explanation. That was very helpful, and the paper. I very much welcome this. I mean, we've clearly spent some time putting this plot of land together, and we have been through a couple of iterations of early design principles already. This does look now as though it's getting somewhere, and I think it's good to see. And I welcome that. Clearly what I would, I think, like to make sure that we are now thinking about is that we do have robust diligence and scrutiny over the progression of this plan. I know there are a number of risks involved, and we're looking to de-risk those and look at our long-term risk exposure. But I very much welcome the thoughts. I think it's a good compromise between open space and accommodation. I particularly like the supported accommodation for some vulnerable residents, particularly bearing in mind the work we've done in the past around providers of accommodation within Oakhampton that have tapped into the unrestricted housing benefit angle. So I think this is most welcome. I really hope that we can progress it, but keeping an eye on obviously the costs involved, because we're committing here to quite substantial investment in this, and I think we really need to make sure collectively we get progress and move this project forward. So I'm really happy to support it on those grounds.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jury. Anyone else wish to comment? Nobody online? No. Okay, then the recommendations have been described and are on by Councillor Renders, and they are on the screen. Did you get a seconder, Councillor Renders?
I need a seconder.
Right.
A seconder, please.
Councillor Moody, thank you. All those in favour, please. That's
Unanimous for the recommendations.
Thank you. Right, if we can move forward now to the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, known as the LC WIP, on pages 27 to 34 of the agenda, and the lead member for this is Councillor Jury. Councillor Jury, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members, you have a paper in front of you which is seeking to get approval of the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. I bring it forward with, I'm very pleased to bring this forward. It's a strategic document that I think aligns with our climate and health objectives. It enables West Devon to compete fairly for active travel funding and developer contributions, something that's long eluded some of our rural communities. This is a practical response to improving connectivity while ensuring value for money. The LC WIP identifies priority walking and cycling routes between and within towns to promote active travel and to reduce car use. It provides both strategic and local infrastructure, prioritising routes such as Tavistock to Horrabridge and Crediton Road in Oakhampton. The plan is essential for attracting government and developer funding, and it supports future local plan policies. It has been developed with expert consultants and community input and provides a 10-year blueprint for delivery, though implementation is subject to budget availability and collaboration with the County Council. The report seeks the adoption of the LC WIP to enable it to become part of the evidence base for planning and investment decisions. I'm very happy to answer any questions that councillors might have.
You also have Gemma Bristow coming to sit beside you now as the lead officer for this. Does anybody have any questions, please? I'll take those from the committee first. Councillor Elliott, please.
Thank you once again for a very clear paper. I'm very interested at the end of page 32, it talks about the behaviour change study and the fact that a standard LC WIP doesn't include behaviour change interventions. And clearly most of the paper is about the sort of infrastructure side of LC WIP and prioritising routes. But I just wonder if it's possible to hear any more about behaviour change and how we might be looking at that alongside the sort of infrastructure improvements.
Yes, certainly. And I haven't really covered the behaviour change because we did that as a Cycling UK, prepared that for us as a standalone piece of work, and we commissioned that at the same time at the LC WIP because recognising we're not the Highways Authority, behaviour change is definitely something we could implement policies on. So there is a whole suite of different item things that we could do. The strategy itself doesn't really whittle them down, so there would be some work to work out what would be the most effective in West Devon. That's not something that I've been asked to look at yet, but it could certainly be something that we could, in tandem with looking at the infrastructure side, we could also look at the behaviour change side to recognising that we need Devon to deliver the infrastructure side to work out what could be effective.
Thanks very much, that's great.
Councillor Mott, please, and then Councillor Daniel.
Thank you. Brilliant report and fully behind the scheme. However, as always, I know it's not the first time we've brought this up, it is really disappointing that we cannot support our rural villages and towns more within this scheme. We constantly seem to be focusing, maybe rightly so because of the numbers involved, but we constantly focus around the main towns rather than linking the the more rural areas. How are we going to get that behavioural change if we do not provide those commuting routes for those that are living outside of the towns to be able to access those facilities? We constantly have the issue with Yeovilton to Plymouth, for example. We've brought this up before. It's part of our joint local plan, but it is not reflected within the LC whip. And I appreciate that some of that is down to county, but it's just disappointing that we weren't more ambitious maybe with our desires.
Councillor Daniel, is that going to be the main thrust of your question?
Yes, I was going to really bring up the safety issues for trying to do active travel in rural areas and how that is not a consideration, but the weight of population is. And I'm wondering, when are we going to change that? When are we going to look at how safe people can cycle or walk or ride on rural roads, which are between towns or between villages and towns? And we're never going to get behaviour change until we've got safety. I mean, that should be the main priority in my view. And also, do we have joined up thinking with all the other cycle routes that are around in other boroughs and in the council as a whole, the council district as a whole? And how is that a consideration with our active travel routes, so that we can have a route all around Dartmoor to join all our towns and villages? I mean, that would be ideal, and it also would improve tourism and local small economies by bringing more people into the area that can travel on bicycle or by foot, and also use our local shops and pubs and guest houses and Airbnbs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel.
Thank you. Yeah, so I completely appreciate the point of that. It does. When you look at the map of the priority routes, there's a big emptiness in the middle of the of West Devon, but we did, in fact, push our LC whip further than any other LC whip, in the sense that normally you would set 10 kilometres as the maximum cycle distance. We extended it to 20 to try and identify more of those longer routes that were realistic, that people might cycle on. And we're focusing on cycling on an everyday basis, because the ultimate aim of this is to get cars off the road. So the longer the distance, the less likely people are to cycle it. So we did try and stretch it, and that's also in the length of time it took to produce this report is because the breadth of it is enormous compared to other LC whips. So we tried to recognise that. The other thing to mention is that particular route, Yeovilton into Plymouth, is identified in the LC whip, and the brilliant thing there is it aligns with Dartmoor's emerging LC whip, and it is also in Devon's. And I appreciate that Devon, we deviate on the alignment that Devon are advocating, but we have 3 LC whips identifying that route as a priority, which I think stands that route in a really good, strong position for central funding later down the line.
Can I just ask a question from there, please? Sorry, Neil. With the Dartmoor to Yeovilton to Plymouth route, we had the previous cabinet member for the county council come to see us twice about getting this route done. She used to come to our overview and scrutiny meeting, and she was always quizzed, and we had some real powerful and good working together. I'm really disappointed, and I know I've spoken to you before about the survey that was carried out should have been taken to the hospitals and the universities, because they are a lot of the main people that do the cycling. We seem to only get a tourist reply, which meant Devon said it will go with the tourist route instead of, the sensible cyclist route, because we probably didn't get to those people. And I think if something had been put up in Derriford and in the universities and the staff areas, etc., I'm sure it would have drawn some conversation and people responding, because so many do use it. I know my back surgeon always uses that route on non-operation days. He swims the others. But, he ends up having to cycle off-road to get to Derriford from Buckland Monacorum. And I know Councillor Cheadle has had quite a lot to say about this plan. So I just wonder, Plymouth supported it, so would it be in Plymouth's LC whip, although it does end in South Hams, so while South Hams is still part of Woolwell area, which I think the new housing that's going to be developed, I think the cycle route went into there and then used other routes that go through Plymouth. So have we liaised with them about this, please? I don't know who's answering this. I can see them looking at each other.
Can I kick off and perhaps Mrs. Bristow will be able to provide some expertise. I think the points that are raised are all really good points and were things that we considered when we sat down initially and started looking at this idea. I think it became very apparent that in funding terms we had to concentrate and do what we could, if one's honest about it. And so therefore we have set some priorities and we have concentrated our resources where they were going to have most effect. It's not a statutory obligation of this council, as you know, so we will have to work longer term with the county council, whichever body follows them. We have identified, if you look at section 1.2, the priority routes, and the route from Tavistock to Plymouth is one of those priority routes. So that is there as part of this plan, and that's one of the reasons for adopting this. And of course, one of the really important aspects of adopting this plan is, as I said in my introduction, that it hopefully opens up opportunities for us to get funding from elsewhere to build on the success that we have already had with the limited resources that we've been able to put into it. So that, I think, would be my summary of the points, the very good points that are being raised. I hope we haven't finished with this. This is not the end result. This is the beginning rather than the end. I don't know if Mrs. Bristow would like to add anything at all to that.
I'll just make one other point on this. The other, obviously I'm going to advocate for this LC whip, but I believe that Devon responds to figures and numbers, and now we have the LC whip gives us empirical evidence that that is a really important commuter route, whereas before you knew it to be that, but you didn't have evidence, numbers evidence to say it, and now we have numbers evidence to say that that is really important. In fact, even across South Hams and West Devon, that route really ranks as showing high demand for everyday cycling trips. So it gives us that support.
Thank you. Councillor Moody.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's a very good point you've just made. Because the only other issue I just wanted to, another bit of information that I wanted to add is that looking at the railway scenario, the figures that have come out of that is in excess of 1,600 people in Tavistock commute to Plymouth. But that just yet again reinforces those figures that you've also just mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Moody. Right, if we move into debate, but I think we've nearly done it, so Councillor Jury, please.
Thank you. Can I move the recommendation, please, on page 27, which is that the Hub Committee approves the LC WEP report and for it to form part of the evidence base to support active travel for any future revision to the local plan.
Councillor Mott is happy to second. So now if we move into debate, does anybody, Councillor Elliott and Councillor Mott, please.
Thank you very much. So I suppose very positive about this, and I can see the recommendation is that we approve the LC WIP report, and by that I take it we mean the report that's in front of us, so not just the sort of technical bits of maps and things, but the whole report. So I would really draw attention to the behaviour change study and the fact that although it was commissioned and carried out by Cycling UK, there's actually a lot of very small-scale practical strategic interventions in that around walking, decluttering pavements, play space for children, and it's a useful report. It's only 38 pages, and I really hope that that doesn't get forgotten, because compared to the amount of money that we would need to invest in terms of infrastructure, the amount of money that we could invest in behaviour change and local initiatives I think could really improve community well-being. So we're talking about improving the environment because we've got less petrol fumes. We're talking about improving people's health because they're getting out and about more and walking. And we're talking about improving community cohesion, because certainly when I walk into Chagford, which is 1.5 miles, I guarantee I bump into people. Whereas if I'm in the car, then it's a very different experience. So without making it too parochial, I really think we should emphasise the behaviour change, and I hope this can come back to Hub in some way so that we don't forget it. So that would be what I'd like to see.
It actually used to go to ONS nearly every year. The LC whip issues. We have the chairman and the deputy chairman for ONS here, so they may take comments on board. Councillor Mott, please.
Thank you. Thank you for a great report, and more than happy to agree to this. It's been a lot of hard work on the background, doing all the consultation, bringing all of the information together and producing a final report. And like, as has been explained, it gives us the numbers for us to be able to progress schemes and nail some of this down so that we can start delivering some of these routes. Thank you.
And more specifically, it will be in the new joint local plan. And, you know, that is really good evidence and a good chunk of work that's already done for us. So that will help with the 30 months. Right, all those in favour, please.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. If we can move now to Councillor Jury again. It is Councillor Jury, isn't it? Yes. For the Crediton Road footpath, Oakhampton. Where's Mr. Brook going?
He's running away, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Members, you have in front of you a report about this very important subject. The Crediton Road footpath in Oakhampton. This carries on in a way from the previous paper. I'm very pleased to present this report, which demonstrates practical action to improve safe routes to school and active travel infrastructure. The proposal addresses a critical missing link on the Crediton Road that currently forces residents, including children, to walk into the carriageway or take longer diversions. The scheme aligns with the priorities set out in the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan and has been identified as an important short-term delivery project. The footpath project is estimated at a maximum cost of £250,000, with in excess of £100,000 already secured through a Section 106 agreement with a local developer. The paper in front of you requests approval for the remaining £150,000 to be funded from the Council's active travel budget. Devon County Council has committed to delivering the construction work once full funding is in place, with works expected to begin in the summer of 2026. This is a deliverable, cost-effective project that promotes road safety, connects residents to schools and services, and demonstrates the Council's proactive leadership on community infrastructure. And I commend the paper to you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Renders, please.
Thank you. I had to reread this about 3 or 4 times because I wasn't sure if it was me just being silly, and I should have asked the question when we did the meeting. But my question is relating to the actual proposition where it says, or the proposal, should I say, the S106 contributions referred to in paragraph 1.9 of the report, and that clearly states that it's subject to an S106 variation. My question is, and it might just be me misreading it, if that wasn't to happen, if something went wrong with the S106, would this not happen then? Would that be another proposal to come back for the fund? I mean, I agree that it's needed. We've talked about this before, but I just read that and thought, hang on a second, what happens if the builder decides that he's not going to do phase 3 and 4 or alter phase 3 and 4? Would that affect his contribution to the 106? And of course, this whole paper says it's subject to that particular thing being agreed.
Yeah, thank you. I gather that that may be the case. I mean, certainly the developer has approved the contribution. This council has improved the variation, and we're just waiting, as I understand, for that to be signed off at Devon County. So I'm very hopeful that that is going to be progressed fairly quickly. Do you have any other information at all?
Thank you, Councillor Joy. That is the correct position. So the principle's been discussed and agreed, and it's with the legal departments to get it executed, as I understand it.
Not been a little bit premature then. I just wanted to. We're keen to get this still, and I get that. I did this confirm what I thought, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooke. Are there any other questions? Councillor Daniel, please.
Thank you. I was sad to see that this money is coming out of our active travel funding. I'm unsure of why we need to be building pavements on new developments when that surely have been the priority for a developer to do that, rather than the council to pick it up afterwards when it's shown how unsafe the development is. So what can we do about it? What has that been investigated? Has the developer been approached to say, well, why didn't you build a footpath here to keep people safe walking into Oakhampton when you built the houses?
Councillor Drury, you look like you're going to answer.
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that directly. My understanding is that as part of the original plans, there were a number of changes made as the plans developed, and that effectively this particular route was not identified as one that would be used by pedestrians, and then the plans changed and it wasn't picked up. So my understanding is that it was an error perhaps at that planning stage. What I think we're trying to do is, as I said in my introduction, to demonstrate practical action to actually do something about this. It's regrettable. We have managed to negotiate with one of the developers to provide some of the funding, but we either move on, grab this and do it with the funding we have available, or we leave it as an unsafe route to school for a number of children. So I take the point, and I think it's in an ideal world it would not have happened, but we're dealing with realities here, and I think this is the best way of resolving this particular issue. So I don't think I can add much to that.
I think it just demonstrates my comment about road safety within rural areas. If this sort of thing can also happen within towns in big developments, that people or pedestrian safety is not a consideration, and I think it needs to get further up the agenda. And I really hope, my question is, I hope this council will take this as a lesson that we need to be really careful when developers ask for variations as to the unintended consequences of those.
Thank you, Councillor Daniel. Councillor Mott, please. Is it a question or debate?
Well, no, it was more for clarification, really, to answer Councillor Daniel's question and to add to Councillor Jury's answer, in that these applications for that particular area of the town have been piecemeal and have been in a long-term plan. So there are various historic reasons as to why the footpath hadn't been developed and provided for as part of the various developments that came forward. One of them is because of the change in location of the school, which hasn't been helped. So the bigger plan for that area had included safe routes for children to access the school. So with the change of that, those footpaths weren't there. We are addressing an historic problem. We've recognised it as a safety issue. We are doing our best to address that now with the funding that we can get, and that's why we are looking at doing this now.
Mr. Brooke, please.
Apologies, I'm a bit of a yo-yo today in terms of my seating arrangements. Just to reassure the hub, I think it's excellent that you are prepared to commit to solving a local community issue, but separately you will be taking decisions today about the LC whip, which deals with road safety and modal shift, and in the future a decision about local plan making, place-based thinking, strategic planning, And that's what this council does so well to support its communities. And when we get those right, and you take those decisions to lead on be on the front foot with these things, that's how we avoid them in the first place. So all valid points, but I think we should look forward, shouldn't we, to the things we can do to make this better, pick up some of the problems of the past, and move on. And I think we have all the tools in our box to do that. So just thought I'd make that point.
Thank you. Councillor Jury, would you like me to second your motion?
Yes, please. Can I move the motion on page 35, please, that the Hub approves £150,000 of funding from Place and Economy Active Travel Funding for the construction of the footpaths to the north of Crediton Road, Oakhampton, subject to securing the additional Section 106 contributions referred to in paragraph 1.9 of the report.
Thank you very much, and I'm happy to second that. I'd like to say that I do welcome this. We do need to do it. It's the honourable thing to do for the safety of children getting to school, etc. But I do agree with the point that as there are 3 members of the planning committee sat here, that actually when large plans come through again, that they're looked at. It's very difficult when people put in for a variation. When we receive it, you just get a variation, and it doesn't really tell you what the variation is. Or I have asked for it, and it is now starting to come through, because when you get a variation to D whatever, you don't know what it is really. We don't always have time to look it all up, maybe like we should. And I think, that's a valuable lesson. And as I say, there's 3 members here of the planning committee that they will know what to look for now if something like that happens again. And I'm sure, Councillor Daniel, for your area, you would be doing that as well. And I think we need to get that message out there to everyone to look at pavements, etc., that are on plans, because some of them is no street lights at the moment, which I have to say, and no bus stops and things like that, which I have to say personally I disagree with. There should be those in place for people. The ones on the Tiddybrook estate are fantastic because they're an area where children can go, but actually they're not completely closed off, and they're near to houses so that they can be overlooked. But it is very successful, and I'm disappointed that other schemes don't have them because it's deemed not necessary. Well, actually the developer's always going to say it's not necessary, because they don't want to contribute. So I think this is a valuable lesson for us as a council to learn to take this forward. Does anybody else wish to say anything in debate? You?
I'm just going to reiterate a lot of what you've been saying. I think it's a great idea. I think we need to back this. Safety comes first. So yes, you've got my backing on this completely.
Right, no other hands are up, so I'll take a vote. All those in favour of the recommendation as laid out?
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Gemma, and thank you, Mr. Brooke. Right, if we could now move to item 10, off-street parking order amendment. Councillor Bridgewater is with us on Teams. Good afternoon, Councillor Bridgewater.
Thank you. Welcome from sunny Wiltshire. The first thing I've got to do is draw members to a extra recommendation 1.3, which is to introduce a 12-month permit at the Market Quarter car park, Hatherley, in accordance with Appendix B. That is a legal requirement that we've put in today. The background to this report that's been considered by members is to allow West Devon Borough Council to undertake parking enforcement on behalf of 1, Chagford Parish Council in the Bella Couch car park, and 2, Chagford and Hatherley Community Market Limited for the Market Quarter car park and Market Square, Hatherley. These car parks are newly built, and in order to enable enforcement under a management agreement with West Devon Borough Council, there is a requirement to have to add these car parks to our off-street parking places order. The pay and display income generated within these car parks will be retained by Chagford Parish Council and Hatherley Community Market Limited. They will also be responsible for setting and agreeing the parking tariff in these car parks. This council will conducting the enforcement on their behalf. Without these updates to the off-street parking places order, enforcement will not be possible in respect of the additions and changes to the parking policy order. The background to this order is within the report, and a 21-day public consultation will be undertaken following the sub-meeting, and during that consultation, customers who wish to object to or comment on any recommendations will have the opportunity to do so. Objections will be considered prior to any implementation of any of the charges. Obviously, I'm up here in Wiltshire, so I have no idea, but I'm hoping that Mr. Stuart Noyce or Emma Widdicombe are in the room to help us answer any questions. So I'll hand it over to you, members. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bridgewater. Mrs. Widdicombe and Mr. Noyce, would you like to come forward, please? They're both here.
Thank you very much. I can't see him on screen.
You will in a second. Mrs. Widdicombe, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, nothing further, thank you.
No, right. Any questions, please? Councillor Elliott, it's your patch. Any questions? No.
No, I've sat through many parish council meetings discussing the development of this car park, and I really know all I want to know about it. Thank you.
I think even I've been to some of it, haven't I? I heard about the car parks actually when I came up. Councillor Kimber, the Hatherley car park man.
This isn't a question, but can I talk anyway, please?
Not yet. Wait your turn. Right. Are there any questions for the officers? No. I will move the recommendation as Councillor Bridgewater isn't here. And if we note the... hang on. And noting the 1.3, introduce the 12-month permit at the Market Quarter car park, Hatherley, in accordance with Appendix B. Councillor Elliott, please.
Just want to say, I thought you needed a seconder. Yeah, I'd like to second.
Thank you very much. Right. We're open to debate. Councillor Kimber, please.
I just wanted to thank the officers for your help and your cooperation with the parking order, for all the on-site meetings and lots of emails answering questions from the working group. I'm sure you've enjoyed that. And just so you know, the parking fees will support the future viability of the market. And to you all, please come and visit the market after the meters are installed.
Not before then, eh, Patrick? Right, you can only visit Hatherley Market when you've paid. Right, any other debate? No. May I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader, as per the screens. Thank you. Right, I now have Councillor Mott and Mr. Graham Swiss, please. This is for the Tavistock Neighbourhood Plan. Councillor Mott, indeed.
Indeed, I have great pleasure in bringing this to the committee today after a lot of hard work by the Neighbourhood Plan Committee, as we know, which was chaired by our former colleague, Ursula Mann. They've gone through a lot of work getting this together, a lot of consultation, and hopefully the report speaks for itself. The plan has gone through consultation. It's been voted through at referendum. So for us, this really is very much a tick box exercise.
Does anyone have any questions? No? Would you like to propose?
In that case, I will propose, please, the recommendation that we approve the making of the Tavistock Neighbourhood Plan and as set out at Appendix A, and that we authorise the Director of Strategy and Governance to publish the decision statement as set out in Appendix B.
I am more than delighted to second that, and I think this is a final shout out for former Councillor Ursula Mann for all the hard work, dedication, good times and bad times in formulating this plan, and to do it within the 30 months is incredible. Not many do. A lot of committees, as we know, crash and burn. And she has just held it together and got it through, and amazing. So I'm delighted to second. Any debate, anybody?
No, just really my congratulations to both Ursula and to the team and anybody else that was involved in bringing this plan to fruition. It's no mean feat at all.
No, just to add to that, Graham, your help with this, I know that Ursula really appreciated, and I know you've had to sit through a couple of tortuous town council meetings. You know, well done for that and for helping her so much to get it over the line. So, does anyone else wish to speak on this? No? May I see a show of hands then, please?
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much indeed. Right, item 12, page 235 to 246. Do we need to be part of? No. Right, okay. Mrs. Buckle and, which one of you two is doing this? Mrs. Hotchkiss, is it you?
I'm happy to, Leader.
Yeah, thank you very much. Off you go.
The debt write-off report provides an update on the debts approved for write-off by the Section 151 officer during the period the 1st of January to the 31st of March 2025 under delegated powers. These total £23,600 and 22 pence. The report also asked Hub Committee to approve the write-off of debts of £5,000 and above as set out in the exempt appendix. The total amount in the appendix to be written off is £22,859.77. Debts are only written off where all possible enforcement remedies have been exhausted and the overall amount of debt being written off is steadily reducing. The total debts to be written off are £46,459.99. The report also updates on in-year collection performance for council tax and business rates. It's expected that the council tax collection rate of 98.69% will place the council comfortably in the top quartile nationally. The in-year collection rate for business rates was 97.81%, and this is expected to place the council in the second quartile. The report also provides an update on the overall arrears position, which has been reducing steadily following the further embedding of service improvements, whereby the team prioritised the collection of all outstanding debt.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Hotchkiss. Does anybody have any questions? No? Right, I'll open. I'm happy to propose from the chair in the absence of Councillor Edmonds.
Second, Chair.
Thank you. Any debate, please? I'd just like to congratulate Mrs. Hotchkiss and her team for the upper quartile rates, placing us in the top rate and only a few pennies short of the top rate in the second quartile. I think it's in this economic crisis that so many people are facing every day to get these collection rates is and I know of councils up and down the country that have got huge arrears. But I think we as a council look at them quite quickly. We don't let them build up. And that in its way assists people very much, that they're not letting the debt build up. We go to them before they can get to 5 or 6 months, when it then becomes like impossible to act. So your team, for its care, I know it sounds a bit odd to say care for trying to extract money from people, but the care within which you do it and look at what they're facing. And I know we assist with some benefits and things like that if people are entitled. And I think that West Devon deals with this in a very kind manner towards people facing difficulties. So a big thank you to you and your team. Thank you, Jenny. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? No? Well, we'll go for a vote then, please. All those in favour? That's
That's
unanimous.
unanimous. On to recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
And that is the end of the meeting, everyone. Thank you very much for attendance. By golly, it's only 50 minutes. So thank you very much.